Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Town Square Media and 106.1 KISS FM proudly bring to you your podcast champions of the world. He's the R to the O to the B. I'm STEVE. We are your host with the most, bringing you everything wrestling related from post to post.
Nothing fires me up quite like that. It's like the old what the world is watching,
yes.
Kind of the signatures before the show. I love that. Thank you, Steve, for another intro. Here is a bonus episode for you this week because we are making up on all the big stories that we missed while I was recovering from surgery, which I'm still recovering from, clearly. But when I was totally out, we were unable to talk about some of the big stories. We talked about Daniel Bryan. We talked about Shane McMahon. I would like to talk, Steve, about Titus O'Neil and what happened. One of what I feel is the strangest stories over the past month or so in the world of wrestling. Yeah. The short story goes like this. I know you're up to speed with it, but maybe some of our viewers aren't. After Daniel Bryan's retirement, in fact, moments after the retirement, the whole locker room emptied out and paid their respects by clapping on pretty much the rampway for Daniel Bryan. In some strange, what was described as a playful altercation, Titus O'Neil kind of playfully grabbed Vince McMahon. Great footage of this does not exist, but footage does. And kind of playfully pulled on his jacket, insisting that Stephanie walk ahead of him or something like that, to that effect. I've kind of actually experienced a whole lot of emotions thinking about this. But basically, the long and short of it is, Vince was not happy about that. Apparently was really upset and decided to suspend Titus for what was initially reported to be 90 days. Then I heard it was either changed or inaccurately reported and is actually a 60-day suspension.
Yeah, I heard he was talked down by Triple H and someone else to reduce it to 60.
Yeah, so let's talk about this, Steve. Where initially, where do you fall on this? Who's right, who's wrong? What do you make of it?
Oh, I don't think Titus O'Neil's wrong. I actually went and watched the extra footage on the network right after Raw, and I noticed that, and when I saw that, I kind of laughed, because I thought it was cool they'd play around like that. And then to hear the next day, Titus O'Neil's been suspended. I was like, wow, I had to really think if that could have possibly been the altercation or if something else happened. That was it. I mean, he grabs his arm playful, and he even looks at him and smiles. And since been taken down. You
mean Vince looks at him and smiles?
Yeah, I mean,
that's
you
what I
can
thought
clearly
too.
see it.
So that was my initial thought, and I'm still kind of there. Like, I'm mostly on Titus's side about this, but let me give you both sides here. Okay. So my first inaction was, like, really, Vince? Like, WTF? That's a huge overreaction. Yes. Another reason why this is just silly is, I mean, you're heading into WrestleMania. You've got such a short deck already. Keep all hands on deck. There's that part. Secondly, you've got a guy who seems like a genuine leader outside of the locker room. Like, you've got the Cenas who are locker room leaders in the locker room. This is a guy who gets great press outside just by being a genuine good guy. And he didn't really do anything that I felt was all that wrong.
Not at all.
However, I was talking to a friend of mine about this, and a friend of mine made a really good point. This is the boss. This is Vince McMahon. This is a very powerful man. He's also in his, I believe, 70s. And it was probably a stupid move to do that. If you and I were to do that, we're younger guys, we're buddies. Yeah. We don't have, none of us are superior to another one. It would be appropriate for us to grab each other like that. Yeah. Maybe your boss at work, wherever you happen to work, the viewers happen to work, it might not be the most appropriate thing. I know it's a live environment. It's a wrestling show. It was full of passion, but ultimately, when I look back on it, was it a bad thing to do? Maybe not necessarily. Was it a dumb thing to do? It was.
Okay.
Do you have any reaction to that?
I kind of disagree. I mean, because it's a boss and worker, but it's such a different animal. I mean, they basically live together. And I don't think Titus O'Neil would have done that had he not thought, even subconsciously, that, I'm just playing around. Vince knows me. I know Vince. I can do this. Well, and he can't do that.
While it's true that the boys live together for the most part, Vince is not part of that club. He's like, I bet you Titus O'Neil has had very few conversations with Vince before this. That's just my opinion. Yeah. Now, apparently, Vince thought it was unprofessional, has been trying to put the hammer down on unprofessional behavior. Who knows what the excuse was, but I will agree it was a huge overreaction.
Yes.
Something I feel that a stern talking to, could have gotten the job done.
Yeah.
So how does this affect Titus on the way back? Does he come back? Does he come back the same? Where does Titus go from here? I know Dave Bautista has even pressured him to leave.
Yeah, I've read, or I haven't read that, but I've heard that. I mean, that'd be an overreaction on Titus's part because he was in such a good role before he left. They split him from a tag team. He's a spokesperson for the company for different charities. I mean, he could be big. He just needs time.
Well, I agree with the second part. I don't think he was in a great spot when he left. Yeah, he's been split from the tag team, but neither one of them are doing big things, in my opinion. Where he's shining is actually off camera. It's the way he parents his children. It's the way he helps homeless people. It's the seemingly genuine Make-A-Wish wishes that he grants. Whereas, Cena gets a lot of publicity for his wishes, and he's the face of the company. Titus just does stuff like that, seemingly out of the goodness of his heart. He was a guy I was lucky enough to have on my show one time. I spoke to him on the telephone. Just seems like a great guy, like a family guy. And not that I know anything more about him than the average viewer does, but I just got a sincere tone from speaking to him, I felt like, and was very gracious and appreciative after the interview was over. I liked the vibe I got from him, and I was sad to see this happen. It just seemed like a weird misunderstanding that blew up. A mountain out of a molehill, as they say. So that's what we think about Titus O'Neil, and what I figure is one of the biggest stories over the month of February while I was out and unable to record. If that's it, that's all I got for you today. So for myself, the Rob, and my tag team partner Steve,